So you have a doctor, you have a PhD, right? You want
Yeah,
to give us a
yeah,
little bit of a background of where you come from and what wealth
yeah.
of academic knowledge you have?
Yeah, yes, certainly. I would call myself a practical futurist. I did my doctoral studies, which I concluded last year, looking at organizational futures and the implications of artificial intelligence on teams, on leaders, on the adaptation approach. That was a bit of a passion area of mine because I had for a long time uh, been curious about doing further study. A long time ago, I did a social science bachelor degree at a university here in beautiful sunny Queensland. And that was because I had a strong interest in making change in my local community. And so the social science that I looked at was looking at a blend of psychology and sociology and neuroscience type topics. But I craved for more. And so then I did a master's that incorporated some policy and planning dimensions, and then for quite a number of years helped organizations set their strategy and then try to adapt to that strategy via portfolios, programs, projects, change and benefits, which is
You
how I
got
got
bit by
into
the
that world.
project program portfolio bug,
Yes.
which I think makes you totally interesting that you have a solid, profound background from another area and that you've joined our community because I think this diverse background adds so many positive facets that are relevant. Project management, as you know, is not just getting things done, but there's a whole bunch of
Yeah.
psychological aspects behind it.
Yeah.
So,
I
so
totally
you,
hear that.
yeah, when you studied, what were your first excursions into project life?
Um, well, a long time ago, for me, I headed up an enterprise portfolio management office. But before I got to that role, which was in a state government organisation, so in Australia, we've got three levels of government: federal, state, and local government.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the centre layer, which is the state of Queensland.
Wow.
And for me, we used at that point in time Prince 2, managing successful programs as the sort of two primary disciplines. And then we started to move more into sort of agile ways of working and hybrid methodologies as well.
Wow.
Since I've had my own consultancy business, I was realizing that a lot of people and organizations were not super good at enacting change. And even though PMBOK's been around for a really long time, there's still challenges in delivering projects. So I thought, well, if people can't deliver what I would consider more simple projects now, what's going to happen when artificial intelligence comes in and we're shifting whole ways of working, cultures, challenging even the human project manager's place in the delivery model? And I thought that would be something fascinating to explore. And that's what I did my doctorate in, but set all of my research 20 years in the future, which is where the futurist and foresight methodologies come in, because I thought, well, I don't want to just explore it about today, but what will set us up for the future? So did a lot of participatory work, getting people to creatively visualize the future where artificial intelligence might be their colleague at work, or maybe artificial intelligence might be their boss in the workplace. So it just opened up a whole pile of really fascinating insights with the people that I researched with.
A lot of people, when they think about artificial intelligence, they think of computers, software, systems.
Mm-hmm.
They think maybe of robotics.
Mm-hmm.
What was your exposure to artificial intelligence in your studies and also in your initial work?
Yeah, well, for me, it was actually really important to get people to define what it meant for themselves, because a lot of people's definitions of artificial intelligence
Yes,
is sort of
we should take the
weirdly,
time and call the bullshit bingo word and say, okay, maybe
totally.
maybe you can give us a pragmatic and understandable understanding of what are we even talking about when we're talking about intelligence, because I think there's different levels of intelligence,
Yeah,
and maybe
yeah,
we can
there
also
is.
kind of link that to a roadmap, because I think there's a roadmap ahead of us. I think there's decades and decades of
Oh,
unfolding artificial intelligence and I think that what we are just at the precursors. I think a lot of people are already anticipating, I don't know, robots doing all of our work. We're just going to be on vacation or whatever, or extinct or something like that. But I think because this podcast is kind of for business people who are pragmatic and are trying to stay on top of the disruptive nature of our technology, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Do you want to give it a shot and maybe from your perspective give it a definition of what are we talking about when we're talking about intelligence before we even get to artificial intelligence? And then I might ask you the challenging question: is artificial intelligence intelligent? But let's start off with a definition of intelligence.
Yeah, let's start with the easy philosophical questions.
Yep.
Hey, Mark, like but well, for me, intelligence is as a concept something that is in many domains itself. Like artificial intelligence, for me, I think about intelligence when it comes to emotional intelligence. I think of intelligence as a concept around cultural intelligence. I think about intelligence in the concept of like, you know, super, let's get a bit geeky type of intellectual forms of intelligence.
But that's highly cognitive, right? That's associative, that's cognitive. That kind of means that you're I think you're going for the goal, for the holy grail of intelligence. I think artificial intelligence is a little far away from that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think at the moment AI, it's a domain of computer science that essentially is emphasizing the creation of intelligent machines that work and react like humans. And so in the very first paper I wrote in my doctoral studies I went back 5,000 years. Sounds a bit crazy, doesn't it? But 5,000 years where we think the consideration about intelligence from early philosophers, earlier civilizations was something where people started to realize that perhaps there's components of intelligence that could be automated. And even a long time ago, there were forms of very early machine where people were starting to try to make sense of moving parts, often starting with how can we actually augment a human personal body with a form of machine that can actually help enhance the concept of advantage of human work.
My brain is racing. I'm creating links between your various backgrounds, but before I make an assumption about what might link into what you're saying, can you think of a specific example of such a kind of machine?
Yeah. Well, there's a few that actually came from the sort of around Dubai where we were earlier in the year. Amazing it's a hard word to say, automatons, which was essentially like forms of, you know, they didn't have engines in them, but they actually
there was a French movie that had one of those things that you could wind up and
Yes, but some of the very first iterations of that created by incredible scientists in the sort of Middle Eastern Arabic world were there for people's entertainment. So you would essentially have people who may not necessarily been in the hierarchy cranking a handle, and then various figures would play music or they would dance. And that was thousands of years ago. And so now as people invented other forms of combustion engine and other forms of energy utilization, the whole concept of artificial intelligence and robotics can now start to come to the fore, which is why AI and technology is strongly connected to having reliable and accessible forms of energy and electricity to then start to speed up the process and manual processes that we would have seen in early manufacturing days.